Such a great video. Absolutely love it. Our iconic building opened in September 2010, but of course the Trinity Long Room Hub predated the opening of the building. We were very conscious back in the mid-noughties, sort of 2004-05, of the excellence of the arts and humanities at Trinity, but it was very, very fragmented. So as Mary Appier, who was running the Trinity Foundation at the time, said, Jane, we need a big, hairy, audacious idea for the arts and humanities. And a very small group of us got together. And over a period of probably 18 months, 2 years, we thought about what would be appropriate. And we were terribly fortunate because a remarkable woman called Loretta Brennan-Glucksman, some of you may know her, she gave us a philanthropic gift that allowed us to really develop that concept, to look at international best practice around the world, and then to hibernicize it and bring that concept back. And the timing was perfect because back in those days, Ireland still had money for third-level education. And there was a program called PRTLI, the program in research, the program in research third level institution. Sorry, I've made never speak in acronyms. PRTLI, and John Hegarty, who's here this evening, was the provost. And John had said, listen, it's time for the arts and humanities to get their share of PRTLI funding. He says, but you know what? We can't just say we're great. We need to bring an international team into Trinity to do a really rigorous evaluation of the arts and humanities. So we insisted on that. And he said, but also it's time to collaborate on a pan-island basis. And so with John's encouragement, but also the encouragement of Nicholas Canny. Now, Nicholas is in the audience somewhere. He happened to be the vice president for research in Galway. Anyway, there was lots of machinations behind the scene, and we formed a consortium called the Humanities Serving Irish Society. And that consortium then got together, and in parallel, we had this international panel come in to review the hub. And Professor Roy Foster was a member of that panel, and Roy has been a friend of the hub since we were a PowerPoint presentation. And Roy, I'm going to turn to you now and ask you what was it about the hub that you wanted to support? Because basically the review that you gave us back in 2007 allowed us to then leverage nearly 11 million euro. So I'm forever in your debt, quite literally. But I mean, what was it that you really thought, no, this is something special?
Well, I didn't give you the 11 million. I would if I could. But I think what convinced Joop Leersen, and Professor of Comparative Literature, John Laver, a Professor of Phonetics, and me, that this was a brilliant idea was when we surveyed the whole world of arts and humanities in Trinity, where I'd been an undergraduate and postgraduate 30 years before. And we could see the power of talent here. We could see the wonderful library. We could see the terrific research record. But what we thought was needed was an institutional focus to bring this together. And the other thing, speaking personally, I'd been a postgraduate, as I say, in the 1970s, and I had felt the lack of a postgraduate and postdoctoral culture, an integrating world into which one would fit. It was very much, it was a lonely life. And I have to say, things were handled better in UCD at the time, where there was a lively postgraduate culture. I just throw that out. So
we're all friends.
Both John and Joop and I heard the message and felt that it had to be encouraged, and that what could happen here could be very special. The other thing that struck us was how Trinity didn't yet really, or didn't, we thought, enough capitalize on its extraordinary geographical position, its centrality. I was thinking of this listening to Lorna Carson this morning talking about cities. And a university in the center of a city is a very great thing. And the miracle is that Trinity has managed to remain that, unlike, again, its sister university, which had to move out. And the vision of inserting into this extraordinary campus a new building that would be a new focus for postgraduate and postdoctoral work, and that it would be interdisciplinary, was so exciting, and was put across to us so excitingly by the academics who had embraced the idea, that we were all, by the end of a very frantic week, 10 days of putting together the report, when we came over to actually do it, we were all, I think, singing from the same song sheet. And it's great that PRTLI heard the tune.
And obviously allowed us to build this amazing building, but anyone knows a building without amazing people and programs is only a building. And I think from my perspective, what I love most about the Hub is the fact that we are a community and we have 40 early career researchers. We heard from Emer Emily earlier. You're going to hear from them throughout the course of the evening. But actually, they are the future. They are the pipeline. And it's really important that we nurture that and support that. And the visiting fellows.
It is also important, though, that it's in such a fabulous building, which I think is one of the best buildings in Dublin, and certainly one of the best buildings in Trinity. It addresses the other great buildings around it wonderfully. Valerie Mulvin, one of the architects, was talking about it this morning and said that she thought of an Irish tower house when she looked at it. It's so slim and tall, and you think of Yeats's Tuath Valley Lee. There's all sorts of echoes to it. But one thing I would like to come back to is the international as well as the interdisciplinary aspect. I had been a fellow of the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. You had been, I think, at Johns Hopkins at a similar place. We both felt that what Ireland needed was somewhere that echoed those sort of institutions which are notably international, which spread an enormous network of communications across the academic and intellectual globe. And Trinity had the opportunity to do something similar.
And I think, Roy, a decade on, the Hub has gone global, and that's fabulous. We've done that through the Visiting Research Fellow Programme. We've done it through a range of big grants that we've held, whether it's been from the Irish Research Council, the Mellon Foundation, or the European Commission. And those relationships that are built are sort of built for life. And so we've gone global, but we've also gone local. And the Public Humanities Programme, for me, I don't think anybody at the time fully appreciated. And it's lovely to acknowledge Terry Neal, who couldn't be with us this evening, but Stephen Vernon. Their support has allowed us really to engage quite tens of thousands of people, not just across Dublin, but actually around the world. And I don't think I had envisaged the impact of that a decade ago.
Well, I think we've opened out ideas of interdisciplinarity and of the kind of institutions that the Hub can interface with. It's not just other academic institutions. It's art galleries, it's the Hugh Lane, it's Chester Beatty. I think it could be the DFA, the Department of Foreign Affairs, which is full of people with PhDs who have interesting things to say, and Rory Montgomery being actually in the Hub at the moment bears that out. If you remember, this is one thing we raised in the early days of the Hub when I sat on the advisory committee, that the tentacles should be spreading not just academically, but into other public institutions as well, and that has happened. But what you say is absolutely right about people, and the people that the Hub has magnetized to it and the connections it's built up are tremendously important, both in those people who are working with such panache and brio in the institution, which is visibly exciting when you go into it, but also I think in the people who have come to support it. And one thing, going back to my own experience at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, the people who had given money to it stayed part of the outfit. I had a fellowship called the Dilworth Fellowship, and Mr. Dilworth, who had actually endowed it, came in, met me, kept his connections. It was one of his places as well as his business, his home. And the Hub, I think, has the opportunity to build those connections as well with the range of people, some of whom have been named, some of whom are probably anonymous, who are supporting it. And I think it's vital that that kind of support, because as Jane said, we're now at a time when we don't any longer have the access to the level of public money that got the Hub off the ground. We'll have to look elsewhere. And I think it's marvellous that there is such a current of support that's been demonstrated and will go on.
Well, what a great note on which to end. And Roy, I think we're actually going to hear from some of our supporters, but can I thank you again? You've just been absolutely fabulous throughout our history so far. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Roy.